Here's the most important thing I think people tend to forget when they go out to vote. In general, I feel like in the course of life, we all have to develop that capability to judge people. So that judgment of humanity, the judgment of humans, men and women, is plagued. Our sense of judgment of humanity is plagued by this small mistake that we always make. You know what, man? People really feel like what people say, what other people say, is actually what they end up abiding by. That they will in fact practice what they themselves will preach. As a matter of fact, when they say practice what you preach, it's meant as a derogatory chiding of some sort. They feel like people, if they don't abide by what they have said, if they don't heed their own advice, if they don't follow what they have themselves said, then they're doing something wrong, something that is out of the obvious sphere of acceptability. No, that's not the case. The real understanding of the world is to accept the fact that at the end of the day we are all good, and we all know what good things are. We all know how to talk about the good things, the right things. We all know what are the right things to discuss. That is why when dictators are elected to power, their speeches on their own have some sense. They don't they are not all nonsense. Some part of it will always make sense. The speeches of democratically elected governors and undemocratically put in place governors or rulers, the difference is rather slight, I believe. That is why when there is a revolt against an undemocratic government, and when the dictator comes out and says a few words of justification, the crowd starts dispersing, as happened in Cairo and in other places when their governments were trying to quell rebellions. Why does the crowd disperse? Because they end up feeling that, all right, this is a good man at the end of the day, because they're saying the right things. But just because you're saying the right things doesn't mean that you'll do the right things. There is an objective right and wrong. I'm not trying to say that there's no objectivity in what is right or wrong. That's the devil's words. There is a right and there is a wrong. But just because you say what is right, just because you understand what is right, doesn't mean you'll do what is right. What you do will depend on what your conditions are. They are always trying to make personal philosophies in that region of existence where there are no personal boundaries and there are no personal obligations to fulfill, where there is no money to earn, where there is no jobs to go to, where there are no family obligations to fulfill, where there are no promises to keep. In that sphere, all ideas exist. And that's why everybody has the capability of saying the right things, because they all, at the end of the day, are good people if their conditions are taken out of the fray. But the conditions are not out of the fray. So a democratic process will only be democratic when we understand what kind of decisions people will take actually at the end of the day. And for that, we'll have to consider what their financial scenarios are in reality. So it's more important to see a person's bank account details than to see their, good words. And I think that will really make people more democratic, to analyze the reality rather than just the words.